Om Shri Swaminarayanaya Namo Namaha. Om Shri Ghansham Maharajaya Namo Namaha. Om Shri Hari Krishna Maharajaya Namo Namaha. Om Shri Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Welcome to SwaminarayanSpirituality.com and all of the related podcasts as well as YouTube channel and any other talks and recordings as well as publications that are available. This is Sachin Karnik. I want to offer my prostrations to Bhagavan Shri Swaminarayan, Sajanand Swami Maharaj, and to all the Paramahansas of Maharaj, as well as to all the different paramparas that are existing in the world today in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, and of course to all the great sages who have ever come in the past, who are present today, yet to come, and to the Supreme Paramatma residing in the heart of every single being at all times. With that bhavana and prarthana, we are continuing to examine Garada Pratham number 1, Garada Pratham Nupelu, as it is said in Gujarati, Vachanamrutam. So I'm going to just pick up from where we were last time. Please do note, before we begin, that as a disclaimer, that there is no intention to promote or criticize any religious organization, meditative tradition, spiritual path. There is no propaganda or trying to promote a particular belief system. These talks and recordings are contemplative in nature to present Sachin Karnik's viewpoint, that is me, that is the speaker, an interpretation to share with the world for the purpose of further inquiry and dialogue. There's no intention to build a religious organization or create a following or any such thing. The only intention is to simply bring about more contemplation in the world on the extraordinary talks, teachings, life of Shri Swaminarayan Bhagavan, and at the same time, the different paramparas, the different ideas that have been presented since the advent of Shriji Maharaj, who is also Swaminarayan. Now, I also want to make one more very quick disclaimer that I will be giving references from various apps, from various sources. When they are given as references, they will be said as such. Again, giving a reference is not promoting or criticizing anyone. It is just for reference purposes, and then Sachin, who is the speaker, will give interpretation. Right, so having made that disclaimer, let's continue from where we were last time. The question is about Maya. It is a very powerful question asked by a householder devotee, Sheth Govardhan Bhai. He asked, what is the form of Maya? Bhagwan ni Maya kahe che tenu roop shu che. This is in Gujarati, and please remember, I'll be translating everything for you into English. So what is the form of Maya? What is the form of the Maya of God? Maya is what? Maya is the power of God. Right? We know that. Daivi esha gunamayi mama maya duratya, as the Bhagavad Gita says. Bhagavan Krishna Paramatma himself beautifully states that this Maya is mine. It is my power. Okay. So Govardhan Bhai then asks, what is its form in Roop? We've talked about this extensively before. We'll go into it again in some other ways. But what is the form of Maya? So Maharaj answers this question in terms of the dhyan of the murti. If you remember from the past talks and past recordings, the murti that he's referring to, that is the murti of God. That means the form of God. That God is sakar. God meaning it's not... See, again, we have to watch this language very carefully. This word God is used in the Judeo-Christian tradition, or is used in Christianity in the English language. Even that's not the original word in the Bible. So this language can get really tangled up. So the word Bhagavan here is used specifically to refer to that tattva that is Purushottam Narayan, Parabrahma tattva. This is per Vachanamrut now only. And that is how Maharaj is using that word. He's not using it simply as the 6 bhagas, the 6 Aishwaryas. So that is another use of this word Bhagavan. and that is its more generic use in the Sanskrit language. Just as a quick review on this point, the more traditional aspect, the more traditional way to understand the word Bhagavan can be considered as follows. That the 6 bhagas, meaning the 6 divine opulences. All right, so let's go into this carefully. The term Bhagavan is derived from the Sanskrit word bhaga, Bhaga, which refers to the 6 divine opulences or qualities. These 6 bhagas are the defining characteristics of the Supreme Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as it is spoken in the ISKCON tradition, right? But this is the more generic way to understand this. And Shriji Maharaj is using this, of course, in this way, but it's more than that. He's using it to refer to the Purushottam Tattva itself. But anyway, just as a quick review, those 6 bhagas or the opulences, divine opulences are Aishwarya, meaning wealth, Virya, meaning strength, Yasha, meaning fame, Shri, meaning beauty, Jnana, meaning wisdom or knowledge, and the 6th is Vairagya, meaning renunciation. Right? So these qualities are actually all saintly qualities and kingly qualities kind of combined together. Because they all come from God. That's what it basically means. Right? So we could go into them a bit further if you would like. Let's see here. Just a quick overview. So the Aishwarya, this refers to wealth. This refers to the absolute and unlimited wealth or prosperity. Bhagavan possesses all the riches in existence, far beyond any mortal can claim. Everything belongs to God. That's the basic idea. Virya, meaning this denotes absolute power or Shakti. Shakti meaning intense, infinite power here, including the capacity to create, sustain, and dissolve the universe or millions of universes. Virya, meaning strength. That's the power. That is the energy. That is the second point. Third point is Yasha, meaning fame. This represents absolute and all-encompassing fame. Any fame or glory in the world is considered to be a mere fraction of the Lord's fame. It is just a fragment, a fraction of God's power. Like the luminosity of the sun is considered to just be a fragment or a fraction of that power. Okay, the 4th is beauty, Saundarya. This signifies supreme beauty and attractiveness. The beauty of Bhagavan surpasses all worldly conceptions of attractiveness. We are attracted to the objects of the world, and, men are attracted to women, and women are attracted to men, and all that kind of stuff, right? There's all kinds of attractions, very intense they are. But the one who is the most attractive, the most beautiful, from whom beauty itself comes, is Bhagavan. Bhagavan is that supreme Paramatma who is all beauty, all beautiful. The beauty of Bhagavan surpasses all worldly concepts of attractiveness. We have our worldly experiences of attractiveness, but this is way beyond that. Then Jnana, that is knowledge. This refers to complete and perfect knowledge. Bhagavan possesses omniscience, being free from all ignorance and not requiring any means to acquire knowledge. See, we are dependent, right? We are dependent on the brain, on the mind to gain knowledge. It is a dependency. God doesn't have such dependency. Bhagavan doesn't have, that supreme Parabrahman doesn't have that type of dependency because Paramatma is omniscient, all-knowing. So being free from all ignorance and not requiring any means to acquire knowledge, who is self-luminous, Swajnana, right? So this in Vedanta also, this is the goal. Now, Vairagya is the 6th quality here. And that this represents total and absolute detachment or dispassion. Bhagavan has no longing or insecurity being fully self-satisfied, being full, being completely full and self-satisfied. Right? So the complete fullness. In our lives, we are always feeling something is missing here, something is missing there. This just goes on and on and on. But one who has, even a yogi who has realized the Atma is full and self-satisfied. So God is obviously that. Is constantly satisfied in his own Swarupa. In one of the names of Shriji Maharaj, in the Jalamangal Namavali, written by Shatanand Muni, one of the names, appellations is Om Shri Swa Swarupa Chalastitaye Namaha. One who is Achal. Achal meaning unmoving in the self. One who is established in one's own self. Swa Swarupa Chala. Swa Swarup Achala Sthiti. One Achal means not moving, that the Sthiti, the realization, is continuous, uninterrupted realization of the Atman, of the Swaswarup. That name is given to Maharaj, or he's spoken that way because he was like that. That's why he was that. And that is actually a saintly quality, but many of these names of Maharaj are more on the saintly side because that's how he was seen at that time. All right. So these are the 6 bhagas. Now, let's go back into Vachanamrut, where we want to pick up from kind of where we were last time. So the question of dhyan comes about, right? I want to continue from the footnotes in the BAPS beautifully written app. My respects to all the commentators who have created the footnotes. And there are other apps also, but this is just what I'm using to begin with, and there will be other references as we move along. Please remember the original disclaimer that was given. All right, so I'm going to continue here. In the last footnote on the word dhyan, which is in bold. So if you have this app, in the Gujarati app, they have bolded the words, and then if you click on the bold word, you can see the footnotes. So everything I'm referring to, you can find it in the app. The commentators have also put sentences in red. So if you click on that red sentence, you'll get a much detailed explanation of that entire sentence, right? So the words that are footnoted are in black in the app, and words and the sentence, if a full sentence is expounded upon or some additional deeper explanation is given, then it is fully in red. So that's not word by word. The whole sentence is kind of explained, or explained in detail. It's very interesting for those who are interested in doing a much deeper study. You can do this, and I think similarly it is there in English also. We can double check on that later on. All right, but I don't want to use the English translation. I would rather stay with the original Gujarati and then do the translation based on as much accuracy as possible. All right, now let's go back into the word dhyan that is used here. Let's go into the app, and then at the very last bullet point in that app is where the Guru, Pujya Pramukh Swamiji Maharaj, he has given his own vision and definition of dhyan. And that was recorded in a scripture published by the BAPS called Sanjeevani. And that reference is 2/38. Okay, from the Sanjeevani. And so that they have put that reference inside this app here, or inside the last note here. So this is how it goes. And then I will speak the original Gujarati and we'll go into the English. Okay, so Pramukh Swami Maharaj a Vishay Samjavta kahe che, meaning Pramukh Swami Maharaj is explaining this question of dhyan, how he has explained what is dhyan. Bhagwan ne santana mahimanu gnyan etle dhyan. The first sentence is the mahima, the glory. We talked about this before, the glory, the greatness, the significance, the power, Aishwarya, extraordinary state of Parabrahma, Bhagwan. That is Bhagwan. Of course, those 6 Aishwaryas are there, but the opulences are there, but it's much more than that. God has infinite opulences, not just those 6, right? So that is Mahima. Mahima, the word Mahima means to recognize the extraordinary glory. And we can do this in many ways, just by seeing nature. If nature is so glorious, which it is, millions of galaxies and Hubble Space Telescope and Webb telescopes and electron microscopes and endless number of get, just the wisdom that has come from scientific knowledge, if this is all perceptible to our senses and the extension of our senses, that which is the cause of all causes that doesn't have a cause, that which is the sarvakaranakaranam govindam paramanandam sarvakaranakaranam, as it is stated in the Brahma Samhita, that the Supreme Paramatma is the cause of all causes and which does not have any other cause. That is, Bhagavan Shriji Maharaj accepts this idea, this concept of God. God meaning Bhagavan beyond Akshara Brahman. So Bhagavan ne santana mahimanu jnana etle dhyan. The jnana of that mahima, jnana meaning understanding, knowledge, glory of who is in front of me. We've talked about this before. I've given that example before. If you have a billionaire just sitting in front of you in ordinary plain clothes, if you don't know who that person is, looks like an ordinary person. He is a person like we are. But when you recognize that he's got $900 billion, the whole vision changes. My goodness, this is who he is. This is Vachanamrut is like that. Maharaj's Murti is like that. And again, I'm going to talk purely on Swaminarayan Tattva Gnan here. And we'll connect with others also. But during the time of Maharaj, this was like that. Those who recognized him and said, my goodness, who is this? This is the Param Tattva itself manifested. Otherwise, you see him just as a human being, as a saint, or as a yogi or Paramansa or something like that. But to recognize, it's called Olkhan. In Gujarati, it's called Olkhan. So Bhagwan, so that is Bhagwan no mahima. Bhagwan ne santana mahimanu jnana. We might have knowledge, but if you might see the person, the $900 billion person sitting in front of us, but can we recognize? You have to know who that person is. What is the actual potency of that individual? Who is that person actually? Right. So this is just one way to understand a more worldly example. It's like this. So when we are contemplating the glory of Paramatma, then our mind connects inside that Swarup because of that glory. That's why. And then the 9 forms of devotion begin to erupt. A person doesn't have to do bhakti. Bhakti is naturally being done. It is not that Sachin has to do bhakti in that state. If and when Sachin is in that state, that is not something that, a bhakta is doing bhakti anymore. The dhyan, see that Swamiji is explaining it here, it happens by itself because it's mahimanu jnana. So that knowledge, just that wisdom keeps flooding inside. So the sadhanas that need to be done, they are automatically done. So he says in the next line, dhyan etle matra sambharvu nahi, pan a sadhu dharma jnana vairagya bhakti vagere ગુણ વાળા છે, ગુણાતીત છે, મહારાજના અખંડ ધારક છે, મહારાજ જ મળ્યા છે. So now we go into that. But let's go back just for a moment. He says, Santano Mahima. We talked about this before, and I'm actually working on a book on this one. The 64 qualities of the enlightened sages, that to learn them, study them, and then to really internalize that if one has Sadguru, Satpurush, to recognize an enlightened saint is the absolute foundation of the Swaminarayan spirituality, Olkhan, Bhagavanna Santani Olkhan. To recognize who the enlightened sages are. It doesn't matter any sampradaya, any place, but they should have 64 qualities. They must have. Everybody has good qualities in life. We want to take good from all. But the 64 qualities are written, that is a guidepost for us. And they are spoken by Maharaj to his mother when he was only like 10 years old. And that is written in the Satsangi Jivan scripture as Hari Gita. So those qualities are the key. And they are absolute saintliness. I won't go into them right now. But those qualities are a guidepost that once we understand those qualities, then see those qualities within the manifested saint, the true saint. The saint is not by clothes or just by some sampradaya or group or something like that. It's by qualities. Sant gun thi sant che, not by words or by expositions or clothes or anything like that. The qualities are most important, right? So the qualities are the key. The qualities are the master key to realize the divinity that is in our own heart. What is our goal? Our goal is to realize Bhagavan, is to realize the Atma, that I am the Atma, and within the Atma to realize Paramatma. This is explained beautifully in Vachanamrut Garada Madhya number 8. Gnan Yagna, Yog Yagna is described there. And by doing that, Maharaj himself is saying, you will realize you are Brahman. And within that Brahman, you will realize that there is Parabrahman. It's a Gnan Yagna, Yog Yagna, ni Samapti. That means that the end point of these Yagnas, Gnan Yagna and Yog Yagna, which is what we're doing now. This is called Gnan Yagna. We're contemplating on all these ideas. Yog Yagna is connecting with Paramatma. Our mind connects with the Lord again and again, and it doesn't get trapped inside the three gunas of Maya. That is called Yoga Yagna. To reach that stage is called Yoga Yagna. So what is the goal of that? To realize the Atma. When the Atma effulgence opens up, Tejno Rashi, as it is said, right? That Brahma Rashi, it opens up. And it is already there. It's not something that comes from somewhere. It's already there. And that, within that, Bhagavan Purushottam is existing. That realization occurs. And then once that realization happens, one is a fully awakened, enlightened being. One is a Jivan Mukta, Videhi Mukta. One is a Akshar Mukta while living inside the body. So this is where this Mahima leads us. So what Swamiji is mentioning here in this statement here, he says that dhyan etle matra sambharvu nahi. Dhyan, sometimes we think that we're just meditating, to kind of remembering, Sri Krishna, Bhagwan Shankar, Devi, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, whoever, we are remembering God in some way. Hey, that's fine. But it's more than that. It's remembering in what way he's saying here. He's saying that remember the saint. What is the saintly quality? That this true sadhu is one who has absolute righteousness, dharma, has full spiritual wisdom, gnan, has purna vairagya. Vairagya meaning beyond attachment, detachment, reactionary, cyclical cycle. One who has purna bhakti, has continuous, uninterrupted connection with Paramatma, and many other such qualities, which are the 64 qualities, vagere, gunwala. The first point is to recognize this saint as one who has these qualities, and then to internalize them oneself, to bring that within oneself. I mean, I could sit here and say, I'm recognizing a saint has those qualities, but what's next? That's where the word dhyan comes into the picture. What's next here is that it is recognizing this mahima and then to bring that glory inside the heart. Mahimanu gnan etle dhyan. So that gnan, it happens mentally, it happens intellectually, it happens emotionally, it happens through bhav. So that bhav towards, bhav meaning the emotional connection, the emotional effulgence, emotion transmutes into divinity. It is the transmutation into divinity itself from the rag, dvesh, aham, mamatva level into a divine emotion. So emotion goes outside its polarity into divine emotion. That is called divya bhav. And that happens in communion with divya buddhi. So divine intelligence and divine emotion, they bridge together. And once they bridge together, we are able to open, or by the grace, it is by krupa, by the Bhagavan ki krupa hoti, in Hindi we would say. By krupa, what happens is that the mahima, the glory opens further, and our antakarana, the man buddhi chit ahankar, it absorbs inside the swarup of Paramatma, swarup of Bhagavan, our Ishtadevata. This is our goal. Our goal is to be absorbed in bhakti, or bhakti needs to be absorbed in us. Bhakti gets absorbed in us, our antakarana gets absorbed in the bhakti, and then that absorbs into the form of God. So the distance closes with Bhagavan. Our goal is not to keep any distance. It's called ras bas bhav in Gujarati. Ras bas bhav. Ras bas is a beautiful way to put it. It means that you are mixed inside the Swarup. It doesn't mean that you are becoming God. It's like the salt. You put a tablespoon of salt into water, into warm water or boiling water, right? It will mix inside the water. It doesn't become the water, right? So Mirabai has a bhajan, Prabhuji, Tuma Chandan Hama Pani. That beautiful bhajan is there also. That chandan and water. Chandan is the beautiful, it's a sandalwood paste used quite often in religious ceremonies in Hindu tradition. It's very fragrant and it's used for making tilak in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya also, right? So chandan. So that chandan is turned into a paste by water, you see. So when we mix water and chandan together, you get that nice, beautiful, liquidy chandan. What do we call it? It is still called chandan. Now nobody calls it water anymore, right? So when the chandan is mixed inside the water and it's all gotten mixed up, nobody will say that this is water anymore. Although water is there, water is still water. Chandan is still chandan. But what is the difference? The water has gotten absorbed with chandan. It's been colored with chandan. The chandan is flowing inside the water. It has become liquidy. The chandan is still the same. It hasn't really become the water. The water hasn't become the chandan. Similarly, the bhakta doesn't become Bhagavan. Bhagavan doesn't become the bhakta. Bhagavan is Bhagavan only. But the oneness is so intense. There's a beautiful statement written in Bhakta Chintamani. Choto ekane diso chodoya eno bheda jani shake koya. This is again, there's a whole history behind this verse. I won't go into that right now. Let's stay on the point. And that is that our goal is to absorb the antakarana in the form of God through mahima, through saintliness, profound saintliness, unbroken saintliness, sadhuta. As we said before, sadhuta jevi koi moti padvi nati. There is no greater padvi than sadhuta. None at all. None at all. So there is no greater realization than pure saintliness. There is no divisiveness in that. This is the key point. Aham, mamatva is gone. Mamatva meaning that deep-seated attachment. This is mine, this is not mine, this person is mine, this person is not mine, all that. And I'm something, the I, the ahankar, this is gone. And the mamatva is gone. Aham, mamatva rahit, one of the saintly qualities, the main saintly quality perhaps. It is gone. So the absorption is where bhajan, kirtan, manan, chintan continues 24 hours. The absorption doesn't stop for 1 second. Just like you have the chandan and the water, they were mixed and they're just there, They are just together. They're just together. There's no separate. They are separate, but they are absolutely one. And this is the Tattva Gnan of Bhagavan Swaminarayan, which is based on Vishishtadvaita of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya is Ji Vishwar Maya. Shriji Maharaj expanded it further to put in Ji Vishwar Maya Akshara Brahm Parabrahm. We'll talk about that another time. We have spoken a little bit about it before. But so you can see that Tattva Gnan is in this also. The point here, without going into too many other topics, because it's all connected together. Pujya Swamiji in this statement he's stating about the realization that the enlightened sage has all 64 qualities. How big this is. In our lives, even to develop one quality becomes nearly all next to impossible. Where's the question of developing 64 of them? There's actually 70 qualities, but they're classified as 64. So it's you try to develop even one of them and it's extremely hard. So the more straightforward way is to love the enlightened sage deeply who has those qualities. Sat Purush ne Vishay Drad Priti Age Atmadarshan Nu Sadhan. Vartal 11 Vachanamrut. The deep love for enlightened saint who has all 64 qualities. They must actually have all 64 at the highest level. Then, with such a saint, one can surrender one's mind at the feet of such a saint. Then mind is gone at that point. There's the saint takes over, the saintly qualities take over. But be careful. If you're not sure, if there's even the slightest doubt, learn from the sage, see those qualities, try to internalize them, ask God to bring those qualities inside. But do not get emotionally attached to any saint, like in terms of like deep internal attachment. Respect them all, but be careful where the attachment goes, because if the saint has deficiency, then that deficiency will become a major obstacle in our connecting with Paramatma. So be very, 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 very careful before attaching 100% mind to any saint. Doesn't matter who it is. You don't know what somebody's life has been, whether they are perfected, whether they were born perfect, who they are. The only way to know is by inner eyes. From your inner eyes, you will know if this is true or not. Not because of somebody telling us. Not because of somebody convincing us. We say it in Gujarati, Antarni akhoti olakwa santane. See, recognize the sage from inner eyes. But to recognize that, we need to try to reach that stage. It takes one to know one. And to know one, it takes one. It goes both ways. It takes one to know one. How can we recognize an enlightened stage unless we set the direction to recognize, to be that? That's where the scriptures come into the picture. They come into the picture because they are giving us guidance. That these are the qualities. Can you see it? Try, but it's not just see. We don't even have the capacity to see. How in the world we can see? How can we see? See, if we go into, for example, a cockpit of a 747 jet, plane, Boeing jet. Some 7-year-old kid goes in there. All he sees are flashing lights and buttons. Doesn't understand anything there. It'll take so many years, 20, 25, who knows how many years before that person can be properly trained and, in God knows how many ways before they can even recognize what is over there. You see, so this is where the satsang most people are doing now. It's all about trying to recognize what is actually there. And that's where the scriptures come about. The study of the Shastras and then trying to internalize and develop them. We will know through respecting all the sages. Don't forget, always respect everyone with upasana of Bhagavan. Then the qualities begin to open. It takes one to know one. And the more we know the sage, the more we have wisdom and knowledge, as Swamiji mentioned here. To that extent, we become that. That was the question in Vartal 11 Vachanamrut anyway. Right? So it takes one to know one, and to know one, it takes one. It is a cycle. It's a cyclical conundrum. It's called Virodhabhas. It's a circularity, which chicken and the egg kind of thing. Which came first, right? It takes one to know one, and to know one, it takes one. Well, where do you begin? You begin with the scriptures. You begin with prayer. How do we break this? With love. Love for all the sages. But then eventually a point will come, and inner recognition occurs that this is my guru. Guru is not just a teacher here. Those gurus are there. Guru meaning Satguru, meaning Satpurush. Satpurush, not just a guru. Gurus are many. They all have good things to teach us. Right? But the Satpurush is a different matter. They are beyond Kam, Krodh, Lobh. They are beyond every deficiency. And those who are manifested directly from the Akshardham, they are the real Sadgurus. They are Muktas. They are liberated beings who have been sent by Paramatma, who have been sent by God to fulfill some mission, to fulfill a mission. And to recognize them is the big thing. And if they are recognized, or when they are recognized, then one can connect 100% not as upasana, but as how can I say it? I'm not sure how to exactly explain this, but it's not the upasana of Paramatma that you're doing as the guru, but it's through the guru. It's the upasana of Bhagavan that is done through the Guru, not as the Satpurush. You see, so because that saint is holding God, that saint has the capacity to continuously hold Paramatma because of the saintly qualities that allows for the holding of Paramatma in every aspect of the Antakarana. And in Gujarati we say, Rome, Rome, Akhand Dharan Karela Sant. Bhagwan ne Akhand Dharan Karela. That's what it means. That's what it means. But and that is where the Krupa occurs. Bhagwan ki Krupa, grace occurs, meaning God reveals, Bhagwan reveals itself. I would rather than saying himself, let's say it reveals the tattva, that is Purushottam. It reveals itself to those who are imbibed with saintly qualities. It's like the chandan that absorbs within the water when the water goes very close to the chandan. But you can have chandan and water, but it has to be mixed. It has to be churned. Otherwise, it won't mix. It'll remain separate. It'll be touching. The chandan and the water will touch. But still you can see the water and the chandan separately. The chandan, eventually some absorption may occur. But if you need one of those instruments to churn it together, this is the goal of the Sadguru. The Sadguru churns this connection between the Bhakta and Bhagavan. That is the role given by God to the enlightened sages. They are that I don't know what the name of this thing is called, but when you have a chandan and when you have the water, there's a little, like a, I don't know, I have no idea even what it's called. It's like a churning stick or something. It's basically a way of mixing them together, and to really go to put some pressure in there, and then it has to really fuse together, right? Then they come together. Chandan and the water come together. That is what the Guru does. This Sadguru does. Sadguru is a connector. It's that stick, it's that instrument that churns and pulls together the molecules of water with chandan, and then you can say it has all become rasbas, it has become mixed together. And then you can actually make a tilak out of it and put it on your forehead and make chandan, and you can do so many beautiful things with that, right? But before that, we couldn't do anything. So this is the role of the Guru, is to bring together the bhakta with Bhagavan, is to bring about bhakti, and then that bhakti connects with Paramatma in an unbroken way, so that mixture can happen through the saintly qualities. That is the role of the saints. That is the role of all of the gurus. That is the role of the Satpurushas. You see, so it is very, very powerful. It is very, very intense. It has a lot of profound significance. You see, this is why in this paragraph written by Pujya Swamiji, Pramukh Swamiji Maharaj, he has stated here beautifully, Pan asadu, dharma gyan, vairagya, bhakti, vagere, gun vada che. We'll get to the rest of the sentence in the next recordings. But these are the qualities that the saint has to recognize. But how can we recognize? This is where the conundrum is. We can recognize by the grace of God. It doesn't happen like that. We have to set an intention that I want to recognize what is saintliness. I want to know what is saintliness. That's why we listen to discourses, listen to endless, there's endless number of materials available now online. Thank God it's available. But by listening to the glories of the saints, that is the beginning point. But then that eventually brings us an awareness, because that awareness is already within us. Oh, this is saintliness. And then from that, our inner eyes open to recognize. So from Shravan to recognition. Shravan meaning from listening to, it is a journey from listening to the glories of the saintly qualities and of God's qualities, which are infinite in number. And then that transition from listening to them, and then eventually to recognizing them. And then from recognizing them, then the development of an unbroken connection. That is the akhanda vritti that begins to happen eventually, because there's more and more glory. You cannot forget it, even if you want to. Like as I mentioned hundreds of times before, if a person has $900 billion and that's who they are, they will not forget for 1 second that that is who they are. Even though that person may act very humble, maybe very humble, wear ordinary shorts and clothes and this and that, and walk around in the world as like any other person, but that person knows who he is. This is our goal. I'm not talking about the financial stuff. That's just an analogy. That who we have, that the saintly qualities are the highest attainment in life. And there's no chance of realizing Bhagwan without those saintly qualities. We can get everything else. We can get even siddhis and aishwarya and ashtasiddhi and even spiritual powers are there, all those things. That is all part of Maya only. That'll bring another downfall only. That's all it will bring. You see? But if you don't want to downfall, want to reach the Aksharatit, Akshardhamadhipati, the saintly qualities are a doorway. They are the prerequisite. Without those saintly qualities, there is no entrance into the Akshardham. Akshardham mein kisi ka bhi pravesh nahi hai. You cannot go into there. You have to be qualified to go inside there. Otherwise, one cannot go inside there. And this is why the saints, the enlightened muktas meaning liberated beings, they descend again and again. They're sent by God, or they come by their own will also. That is called the Mahakaran Sharir, another subject for another time. They descend again and again to fuse, to first of all, to infuse bhakti, and then to fuse that bhakti with Paramatma. Two things, infuse and fuse. To infuse bhakti inside the hearts of the Jivatma that is trapped inside Maya, that is trapped inside Rajogun, Rajasgun, Tamasgun, is suffering endlessly, suffering in different life forms, different yonis. So they infuse sanskaras, they infuse impressions, they infuse grace, they infuse bhakti, they infuse the spiritual wisdom. And from that, they fuse through the opening of the saintly qualities in the human body. The opening of the saintly qualities in the human body, they infuse, meaning what? The chandan and the water, they get churned. They churn together. The saint is the mokshadvara. It is the doorway. What the saint does by giving knowledge, by giving wisdom, by living the saintly qualities, all that, the saint is brimming with it's a model for what we want to be. That this is our model, our ideal model. That these saintly qualities are ideal. And that saint is also continuously in communion with Paramatma through the saintly qualities. But that saintly quality, that enlightened being, is a doorway. It's a bridge. And performs the role of churning the bhakti and fusing it with Bhagwan in the mind of a devotee. So the guru is an intermediary, like a doctor, who cures the disease, gives the medicine, and then the person takes the medicine and then goes and then connects further. This is how it works. You see, the Satpurush is not God. As per Swaminarayan Vedanta, Satpurush is not God. Satpurush is a doorway to God. Satpurush is holding God. Satpurush is himself or herself itself. That being is infused with Paramatma. And that being who is infused with Paramatma then serves, if it is the will of the Lord, to be a guru for thousands of people because of their saintly qualities. See, what we're doing here, Sachin is speaking for Sachin. This is called Manan Chintan. It is called Goshti in the Vaishnava tradition. It is a way of contemplating with each other. That's all. But we are all on the same path to try to realize these truths. You see, some people have progressed further than others, but the goal is the same. This is not some competition. It's not like a worldly thing that I'm going to get there before you. It's not like that. There's no ahankar in this. This is a path where we are trying to please God. And one has to be careful even with these saintly qualities. If they begin to open, there can be the ego of those qualities also. It's called Sadaguna Purana Parama Viveki Guna Kamanana Ave Soijana Santa Kahave. Sadaguna Purana Parama Viveki. This is Muktanand Swami ji कहते हैं, महाराज के बहुत बड़े संत थे. He's written this beautiful poem, right? Sadaguna Purana Parama Viveki. One who has all these Satgun, these saintly qualities, has Param Viveka. Viveka between the Atma and the Anatma. That kind of Viveka is there. Realization of the Lord has that Viveka. And Guna Kumanana, he's got all those qualities, but there's no ahankar of those qualities. That is the most difficult thing. Even if those qualities begin to open, there is some backdoor ego that props up saying, I am this. I have these qualities. And somebody else doesn't have those qualities. That now you've got divisiveness. And that divisiveness prevents final realization. Vedras, we talk about that some other time. In Shri Vedras, in the very beginning, Maharaj has talked about this Jivan Muktapurna, Videya Muktapurna. Some other time we can go more into that in more technical detail. But in short, we can simply say is that the ahankar ranges all the way up to that, even that point that I am the Brahman, even because we're living in the body, so there can be some ego that can prop up. That's why Maharaj said about himself that I am the Brahman, but I have no ahankar that I am Brahman. कोई भार नहीं हूँ ब्रह्म छे कोई भार नहीं. There's no weight of that. Because that's what happens, right? If you have just, let's use a worldly example again. If you have, let's say 3 Nobel Prizes, there's an ego involved in that, right? It can be that I'm something. I'm something. Yes, I'm 3 Nobel Prizes, and there's praise coming from all sides, and the Nobel Prize Committee, and you've got these awesome prizes and publications and radio interviews, and one may try to be very humble, but even that attempt to be humble can come out of ego. One can be flying on cloud 9, on that cloud 9 of, not that 9 in terms of Nav Durga or anything like that. It is about the 9 in terms of ahankar. All different kinds of egos pop up. We think we are something better than somebody else. And once we begin to think that way and feel that way, we are lost. Dead spiritual. It's a spiritual suicide, spiritual death. That's what it is. So, Sabaguna Purana Parama Viveki, Guna Kamanana Ave, Soijana Santa Kahave. And see, within this extraordinary Vivekas, Sabaguna Purana Parama Viveki, Guna Kamanana Ave, Soijana Santa Kahave, there is this extraordinary love, right? So, this love of God, I want to just mention something which you may not have heard before. There's something called the Valley of Love. The Valley of Love is a significant stage in spiritual growth and development described in the Bahulla's mystical work, The 7 Valleys. It is Bahaullah. So this is called the mystical work, The 7 Valleys. This valley represents a profound transformation in the seeker's journey towards divine unity. See that divine unity we're looking at? Meaning communion. Doesn't mean you become God as far as Swaminarayan Tattvagnan goes. Now, the characteristics of the Valley of Love, there are 4 major characteristics. One is intense passion. In this stage, the seeker experiences an overwhelming desire and longing to attain the presence of the beloved. This is intense passion for the Lord. All right? This is the first characteristic of being in the Valley of Love. The second characteristic is the burning away of veils, veils. The fire of love consumes all veils of want, burning away attachments to the material world. See, this is Vairagya. That's what Maharaj is talking about, this Purana Vairagya. Meaning this type of dhyan, it burns away the attachment towards the material world. We're still living in the world, but the attachment towards it are literally burned away. They're not just controlled. So the veils get burned away. The third characteristic of the Valley of Love is transformation of perception. The seeker begins to see and understand the inner beauty of humankind and their creator. What is the inner beauty of humankind and the creator? You see? So the inner beauty of humankind is such where there is the natural beauty of one's presence of everyone. The seeker begins to see and understand the inner beauty of humanity, of humankind, and the Paramatma, that is the creator. As the God created man in his own image, that idea. And selfless expression is the fourth characteristic of value of love. There's infinite characteristic, but these four are talked about here. The passion engenders in this valley. The passion engendered in this valley seeks expression through selfless acts of love and service to others. Selfless acts of love and service to others. What is this? That is how this passion is engendered in the valley. How beautiful. The passion, meaning that we have the passion to see God, to be with God. It expresses, this passion is expressed naturally through selfless acts of love, selfless acts of service to all, to others. This is called the valley of love. It's part of the 7 valleys that is talked about in the Bahulla's mystical work, the 7 valleys. Amazing stuff. Some interesting references here. Just might mention 2 more points here. What are some of the spiritual effects of being in the valley of love? There are 4 spiritual effects. That is purification, detachment, suffering and joy, and heightened spiritual awareness. We'll talk about them in the next recording. Challenges and growth are patience and pain, sacrifice and transcendence. So we'll talk about the value of love and connect this with this Vachanamrut, first Vachanamrut question of Maya and Dhyan, the answer about Dhyan. And there's still left Pramukh Swami Maharaj's answer here in terms of how he has described Dhyan. So we'll spend some more time on this, to go into this further, so that by grace, this truth actually absorbs from as many directions as possible. The reason Sachin here is trying to present this in so many diverse ways, Gunatitanand Swami has said this in Swamini Vato. He said, if you want to understand one idea, any one idea thoroughly, understand it from 100 different angles, then that which is very, very subtle will appear very gross. That's how, this is the exact translation. Je sukshma vastu che sthul jevi bhasse. So drashti thi jo. See from 100 angles the same idea, which is, we're looking at Dhyan, we're looking at it from one angle to another, one angle to another. And what does it do? It allows us to then internalize it and see it, so that which is somehow difficult and quite subtle, it will be very, very, very clear to us by grace inside our buddhi, our intellect. And then our buddhi will become divya buddhi. Our emotions will become divine emotions. Our kriya becomes divya kriya. All 3, action, emotion, and intellect, turn into divinity, transform into divinity. And then that is the preparation for seva muktischa gamyatam. That is the preparation for Tatta Brahmatmana Krishna Seva Muktischa Gamyatam. Shikshapatri Shlok is there, that is the goal there, that in the Akshardham, Bhagavan, we are doing Sevan. We are having the constant realization of Paramatma to reach that stage. All of this is the background for that. With that, let's do the closing mantra. Om Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mokshamulam Gurur Krupa Tameva Mata Cha Pita Tameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tameva Vidya Dravinam Tameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shri Swaminarayanaya. Namo Namaha. Shri Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Om